Welcome back. It's Ed Martin here in the Pro America Report. You know, we've been talking about this issue for, months now. The question, and I remember folks remember that I went down to Tampa Bay probably in January and was on a panel discussion. And one of the things that happened was a discussion about the ERA, the Equal Rights Amendment. But then it became a discussion on transgender athletes and the impact on sports. Well, there's only a few places where you've really seen the coming together of this in the legal context, and one of them has been led by the Alliance Defending Freedom, which people often know so well as ADF. And if you go to adfministryalliance.org, it's a great website. And one of their team is Christiana Holcomb, who is representing and helping three young women athletes in one of the challenges to this problem of this. So first, let me ask you, Christiana, before we visit with one of these young women, tell us the context of the legal fight. You know, what is it that you can help do? How are you doing it, and what's going on?
Sure. Well, back in 2017, in the state of Connecticut, for the first time, male athletes started to compete in the girls category. And that's had a dramatic impact on female athletics across the state of Connecticut, such that two biological males now have 15 women's state championship titles that were once held by 9 different girls. So clearly a problem with ensuring that young women, like my clients, have access to equal athletic opportunities with males. So in response to that clear discrimination against female athletes, Alliance Defending Freedom has both filed a Title IX complaint with the United States Department of Education, and we've also filed a federal lawsuit asking a judge to stop the discriminatory policy and really protect female sports for young women.
And before I go to Alanna Smith, one of the young women athletes, is the part that you file a complaint with the federal government. I had heard the Supreme Court made the decision on the Title VII, and it was a bad decision in this context. But that was only for employment. I mean, not Title VII. It was civil rights. Doesn't the education department that covers Title IX your complaint? Haven't they been on your side? And therefore, will you win this quickly, or what's the story?
Well, we've been very encouraged because, yes, as you mentioned, the United States Department of Education's Office for Civil Rights did rule in our favor. So they initiated a full and complex investigation of the policy there in Connecticut, the losses that young women have experienced in the athletic context, and they concluded that a policy that allows males to compete in the girls category does violate Title IX. So that was a really encouraging step in the right direction. But it's not yet the end of the road. We're still waiting on the department to decide how it's going to enforce and require both the public schools in Connecticut and the Connecticut Athletic Association to bring their policies into compliance with the law.
I see. Okay. All right. Let me turn to Alanna Smith. Alanna Smith is one of the plaintiffs in this case who has stepped up and had to get involved in litigation when most, I'd say, young women would rather do other things. But welcome to the program, Alanna. And tell me, first of all, what sports do you play? And describe the sort of experience here in the last few years and why you ended up in this spot.
I do track and field, and then I also do cheerleading. I've been doing track since I was in 5th grade. And I started off doing the 400 and the 800, and then I realized that I did not like the 800 because it was just too much. So then I started doing the 100 and the 200.
I think we're losing you. I'm sorry. I think we're losing the connection. So I don't know if maybe you can, I know it was a 3-way call in, but let's see if we can figure that out, get that hooked back up, and maybe we'll just keep talking with Christiana. Christiana, the 3 plaintiffs that you represent, are all 3 currently in high school? Or in other words, were they, and you mentioned that it's the last year and a half, there's been this sort of allowance of these boys to come over and compete in girls athletics. Were these 3, your 3 plaintiffs in that, what grades are they in, and what was the impact on their, you had to show some harm to them, right? So can you describe that?
No, you're exactly right. So we have the privilege of now representing 4 female athletes in Connecticut. 2 of them, the oldest 2, Selena and Chelsea, just graduated as seniors in high school. And then Alanna and another plaintiff, Ashley Nicoletti, are still in high school. But all four of these young women have had significant losses due to biological males competing in women's sports. Chelsea Mitchell, for example, she lost out on 4 state championship titles and 2 All New England awards, which really are quite prestigious and something that's really important to have on your athletic resume as you're considering trying to compete in college. And Selena Soul, for example, lost out on the opportunity to advance to the next level of competition where she might have had the opportunity to compete in front of college scouts. And Alanna Smith, she placed 3rd in a race where, frankly, she should have been recognized as runner-up, but a biological male displaced her and bumped her down in the rankings. So this has been repeated across the state of Connecticut numerous times, where women are losing out on the recognition they deserve, the publicity they deserve, the podium spots, the medals, and the opportunity to improve their race times and positioning to compete for those college scholarships.
So and maybe a different question, but one of the things that I admire about the Alliance Defending Freedom is they a lot of times they take the fights that people otherwise wouldn't have a chance to engage in. It's hard to find a lawyer that wants to they need to get paid and all these things. And ADF has this great model where they help people that maybe didn't have a voice get into the arena. How have you found, Christiana, the issue playing out in terms of popularity? That's not the reason you take on legal fights. A lot of times, Alliance Defending Freedom takes on the ones where you're lonely. But this issue seems to resonate with a lot of people. It kind of cuts across, and people are like, finally, I'm glad someone's doing this. Is that as sort of salient as it seems?
I would say both yes and no. So our clients, prior to Alliance Defending Freedom really taking up this cause, had been attempting, in many respects, to get legal counsel, to have other Title IX attorneys take on this issue. No one would touch it. One of our clients, Chelsea Mitchell's family, actually reached out to a number of women's organizations and feminist groups asking for help. No one would touch it. But on the flip side, I will say that now that, courage begets courage. So now that these 4 brave female athletes in Connecticut were really the first to publicly stand up and say, this isn't fair. Like, women's sports were created and designed for biological females. Don't take away our opportunities. Now that these young, frankly, high schoolers are out in the public talking about their losses and the lack of fairness, it really has sparked and encouraged others to stand up as well. It's been really encouraging, subsequent to filing, to watch, even radical leftist feminist organizations stand up and come to their aid and publicly advocate on behalf of the Connecticut athletes. So I do think that the broad general public does agree and can see the clear unfairness of allowing individuals with all the inherent physical advantages that come with being male dominate women's sports. But it really, they lack the courage to really be vocal about it just yet.
And so give me one more sort of where is it going? Where will this be headed now? You're in court. You're optimistic, I guess. I mean, you're thinking, well, we've got the right positioning. But is this something that gets resolved on a fast track before school starts next year, or is this dragging on? What's your projection on how it will play out?
Well, unfortunately, I do not think it's going to be a fast track before the start of school next year. Unfortunately, with COVID, it kind of slowed down the opportunities we had to put a pause on the bad policy for the spring track season. But I do say we are ultimately optimistic. As you mentioned, there are female athletes and Americans across the country who recognize the fundamental unfairness of allowing males to compete in the female category. It clearly violates federal law in Title IX. So we are optimistic that ultimately we will be able to protect women's sports for female athletes.
Well, it's very interesting and very important, and I encourage you. And so many, I think a lot more folks, as you point out, it's both popular and not popular. I think there's a lot of folks in the country that want to see what you're doing be upheld, and then too many that probably sitting back saying, "I'm not going to say anything. I don't want to get, I don't want to get attention." It's the culture is a funny one. So thank you, as always, to Alliance Defending Freedom for standing up, and Christiana Holcomb for being the lead lawyer on this and helping these young women. And appreciate it very much. Keep us in the loop on it. We'd love to keep talking about it and help in any way we can to have the public understand. I tell people that I've got 2 daughters and 2 sons, and my daughter is the older of my family. She loves playing sports. It means a lot to her, and it's a strange world where we think it's okay to diminish our daughters' opportunities like this. It's just as surprising. So thank you, Christiana Holcomb, and we'll be back in touch. We got to take a quick break and be right back. It's Ed Martin here on the Pro America Report